The surprise is because this is the 9th anniversary. You know, they've been planning for this, you know, for like years, and you know, to set up this evening. And so, I think like 3 weeks ago, Leopoldo said, "Oh, wouldn't it be nice if you could like write a song commemorating the 9 years of Poetry Bridge?" And I said, "Sure." And then it snowed, and I figured, oh, we're going to get canceled, so I didn't bother thinking about it at all for a while. And now it's tonight, so anyhow, this is the song that I came up with. Because you get what you pay for. If you've ever been mistreated, a poet will know what you're talking about. Misunderstood, misconstrued, scorned and abused by a general populace that wouldn't understand art and beauty if it bit them on their petite bourgeois asses, a poet will know what you're talking about. Because we've been 9 long years at Poetry Bridge. The man is always trying to take us out. Hugo lived on West Marginal Way. You could take the trolley there for a dime. Now it takes 2 hours in traffic, 'cause they tore down old 99. If you've ever been mistreated, poet will know what you're talking about. 'Cause we've been 9 long years at Poetry Ridge. The man is always trying to take us out. Poetry Bridge, C&B Coffee, it is our home. Last summer they wanted to tear it down and build micropods for Amazon drones. If you've ever been mistreated, a poet will know what you're talking about. We've been 9 long years at Poetry Bridge. The man is always trying to take us out. He is too. Leopoldo sits in the crow's nest. He looks like he's gonna cry. He's been fiddling all evening and the sound system keeps going awry. Actually, it didn't tonight. This is the one night that it works. Screwed up my song. 9 long years at Poetry Ridge. Man is gonna take us out. Last decade when we read our poems, it was on a piece of paper we could hold. Now everyone reads on devices, even the poets that are old. If you've ever been mistreated, a poet is what I'm talking about. 'Cause we've been 9 long years at Poetry Ridge. The man is always trying to take us out. A tour de force. Okay. Anyhow, yeah, I was a featured reader here like 2 years ago, but I think they decided to put me on with Hamish so no one else would be implicated. I'm happy to do that because I've known Hamish since 1992. Between the two of us, we have like 60 years of Seattle history going on and stuff like that. And I'm sure some of that will get discussed tonight, which is good because you know, a bunch of old people here, so you'll understand what we're talking about. Anyhow, I wanted to, so I'm going to read a lot of stuff like down memory lane. I'm going to start off with a piece that's in this little thing called Spread. This was an ingenious idea, I always thought. A fellow by the name of Chris Dusterhoff, who was a poet that was active in the early aughts, put it out as a freebie poetry thing. It's basically just 2 sheets of 8.5 by 11 paper folded in thirds, and he manages to cram, you know, a half dozen poems in them. And the current reiteration of it is available at Arundel Books and maybe some other places. But he just started it up again after an absence of 15 years in January. And so I had a piece in it that, you know, dates to when I first moved here to Seattle, which was well, the poem will tell you. This poem is entitled Random Seattle Memory. I moved to Seattle in October 1987 and got a job as a seasonal hire in the downtown Bon Marche's accounting department. Westlake Center was just starting to be built, the first story of iron girders going up during my stint. The girders were one day suddenly covered with huge 6-foot posters screaming in block print, "Carl Krogstad makes films." This was a lie. It turns out he really just made posters. Does anyone remember that? No. This is another poem from the old days. This was in a book called Seattle Poems by Seattle Poets. It was published by Robin Schultz, who was one of the board of directors of Red Sky Poetry Theater. And this came out in '92, and a lot of Red Sky Poetry people were in it. They were a long-standing open mic series in Seattle, ran from '81 to 2006. It was like the longest running weekly series on the West Coast, according to some sources. Anyhow, this is my poem from this anthology. It's entitled Seattle. The mildew creeps in like little slug suckers, encroaching on the urine-soaked gutters and alleys under the skyway of the new Liverpool, only to move on with the Rolling Stone to the next damp hip place. Trenton, maybe, or Columbus, leaving only a subliminal trace of an old hummed Beatles tune.
Nice.
Now, the funny thing about this book is Hamish Todd has a piece in this book too.
A lousy little piece.
But I did not meet Hamish at Red Sky Poetry, or I did not first meet him because of this book. The way I first met Hamish was I was working at an insurance paper pusher middleman called Northwest Administrators on East Lake Boulevard. They were like the middleman between Blue Cross and the hospitals or something like that. And one day I wrote this song that I played to one of my fellow file clerks. And he was a member of an improv group that played at a place called the Aha Theater in Belltown that had started. And so I ended up performing this song at Aha Theater, and one of the people that was affiliated with Hamish's writers group heard me and said, "Hamish, you gotta hear this guy, he's great, you know." And the rest is history. But anyhow, the song which is a good 27 years old now, is appropriate now because it's about the Seattle Weekly. And if some of you in the audience might know, the Seattle Weekly finally gave up the ghost after a long death throw and ceased print publication as of this week. The Seattle Weekly is dead after 46 years. Anyhow, This is a song that I wrote about the Seattle Weekly circa 1992. Honey, I can't decide which restaurant is the new in place to see and be seen, or which new play get in height is really for us cutting-edge types, so we can feel superior like when Twin Peaks was on TV. We read the weekly to find out where to get a drink. Seattle Weekly, they'll tell us what to think. Read the weekly, the city is a zoo. Seattle Weekly, what do hip people do? They read the weekly, Seattle Weekly. Everyone knows it's not politically correct to read Playboy. And who needs to when there's naked strippers on the weekly's front page? And guys who think with their slogs, who were told that date rape is wrong, will be relieved when Catherine Robinson tells them it's okay. We read the weekly, some people call it sleaze. Seattle Weekly, we prefer yuppie journalese. Read the weekly, it tells us elitist scum are the ones having all the fun. It's in the weekly, Seattle Weekly. I remember those 50 lightning finger lips after 25 years. We don't worry about who to vote for, we read the weekly. The editors tell us everything we need about which pseudo-liberal farts say the right things to warm our hearts, so we don't feel so bad for endorsing the politics of greed. It's in the weekly. Whoa, 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 Seattle Weekly. Baby, 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 in the weekly. Ooh, ooh. Oh, look at the new issues in the stands. Here's a story on page 10. Lesbians with guns shooting innocent men. And right here on page 22, a list of trendy things for the homeless to do. Flipping forward to page 34, an interview at the Hilton with Jacques Lagabor. Skimming ahead to page 49, a taster's guide to friends of Ethiopian wine. On page 56, a photos from shows, cutting edge flavor, actresses take off their clothes. And right down page 63, our critics sipping champagne in the art gallery. And thanks for those for waiting till page 72. Cause it wouldn't be the week without a restaurant review. It's in the weekly, Seattle Weekly. Subscribe now. All right, that's going down for good now. All right, so I'm going to belie the title of the series Poetry Bridge. I'm actually going to read a piece of prose right now. But this is actually an article I wrote in 1993 for the Seattle Weekly. At the height of the grunge frenzy in Seattle. I mean, Hamish and I were poised to become superstars because it seemed like everyone in Seattle was going to become a big star if they were even peripherally involved in the arts. And if you're peripherally involved in an art that have anything at all to do with rock and roll, it's like, we were going straight to the top. And of course it all ended extremely badly. But this article was entitled, Fameless in Seattle. Sunday. My flight arrived from Buffalo this evening. I'm so excited. With Seattle acknowledged as the new arts capital of the world, I decided to use my week's vacation from the exterminating firm to come here and get discovered. True, I have no particular mastery in any specific art form, but this may work in my favor, as I won't be tied down to one field. I'm turning in early. Tomorrow will be a big day. Monday, breakfast at Denny's. I taped a sign on my stool saying that I was auditioning musicians. Before the hash browns arrived, I had my band. Greg on bass, Matt guitar, Skippy drums, and myself on vocals and personality. We went to Greg's parents' garage in Ballard, where the three guys lived in a trunk of an '85 Pontiac Sunbird. Wrote and rehearsed a double CD's worth of material, after which Greg's mom made us lunch. A mere $200 bribe later, we were the opening act of the Off-Ramp's Pitiful Losers Showcase Night. Played 3 songs, but no one signed us up. By the middle of the 4th number, the band broke up due to internal dissension. Matt became a heroin addict, Greg decided to give up rock and jump over to the new folk boom, and Skippy punched me in the stomach when I wouldn't lend him bus fare home. Tuesday. Seattle is the capital city of alternative comics, so it seemed fitting that I spend the day drawing my first underground strip. Coming up with an original concept was the hard part, until I hit on the idea of the chronicle of a group of naked mutants, survivors of a nuclear war, and their interrelations as tenants of the last rent-controlled building in New York City. I titled it Apartment Uranium 236. Spent the afternoon drawing it on cocktail napkins, after which I submitted it to Fantagraphics Books. They were enthusiastic. "We were running out of napkins," they said. "Thanks." No publishing date set yet, though. Wednesday. The word being out that the Emerald City is the new mecca for theater professionals, I wrote and rehearsed my one-man show, The Eleanor Roosevelt Story. Not even Hal Holbrook would have thought of that twist. In full makeup, I took the bus to New City Theater, where I presented the piece to the director as available for immediate production. He said that nothing was open right now, but for $100, I could submit it to the New Works Festival this fall. Unfortunately, my $200 fee to the off-ramp had cleaned me out. Once again, I am undone by petty obstacles. Thursday, the world-renowned Fjord Press, the publishers of great Scandinavian literature, had of course reached my ears before I arrived. I'm very proud of my Swedish heritage, 1/8 on my maternal grandmother's side. And I figured the time was right for a new, modern author in the Nordic tradition to make his voice heard, as opposed to all those old dead guys. The fact that I didn't speak a word of Swedish, I consider it as a point in my favor, as it eliminates the costly, time-consuming chore of translation. Luckily, I got a fantastic brainstorm for the plot of my great modern epic, because last night I watched The Vikings on the Late Late Show in my hotel room. I particularly thought the scenes where Kirk Douglas got his eye gouged out by a falcon, and Tony Curtis had his hand lopped off by the evil English king to be subtle metaphors on contemporary society. To save postage, I left the manuscript propped up outside their office door, along with a jar of Nana's homemade pickled reindeer curry as a gift, and also to establish my ancestral roots. Friday. Desperation breeds bold plans, so I decided to spend my last day here creating a public artwork, then applying for an NEA grant after it was finished. I believe this runs counter to the standard procedure, but no doubt my maverick approach would win the acceptance among the burgeoning avant-garde clique. Unfortunately, the security guard stopped my rental truck loaded with blasting caps, a jackhammer, and 200 gallons of jet black paint before I was past the Seattle Center gate. Finally, as a last-ditch effort, I tried to join the Jim Rose Circus, the Jim Rose Circus Sideshow, which has been getting a lot of press lately. I auditioned my act, which consisted of sucking the lard filling out of 200 Twinkies while leaving the spongy cake amazingly intact. But the entire troupe said it was too sickening for an audience to stand. Even the human pincushion was against me. Saturday, on the flight home, read in the airline magazine that Trenton, New Jersey is actually the new happening place in the cultural scene. Well, that explains a lot. Well, actually, Hamish and I had many adventures together. I'm not going to tell you about any of them tonight. I did post, for those that don't know in the audience, Poetry Bridge has a website and a Facebook page. And if you find the Poetry Bridge Facebook page, I've actually posted, there are 2 pieces that deal with Hamish and my adventures. One is on the road like a bunch of goddamn idiots. And the other one is the real ghost of Seattle past. And so if you wanted to hear all the dirt and skinny, I would advise you to go there. But I'm going to read my last piece now, because I want to have time to eat pie and have time to hear Hamish. This poem is appropriate. It deals with the events that happened February 20th, 2005, and I was thinking about it last week, and I decided to read this poem again. I was in Los Angeles when I wrote this poem in 2005 at a sort of a crossroads of my own. It's entitled Eulogy. Third day of floods, tornadoes, lightning, and hail. A 16-year-old girl had already died in Orange County from a mudslide. I turned on Peter Jennings to see if this unnatural Los Angeles weather was nationally newsworthy. It was the top story. My friends in the Pacific Northwest must be laughing their damn fool asses off. Sunny Southern California. Ha! Hug a palm tree for me down there. Right, sucker, if you can dodge the fiery bolts from the blue. In the kitchen, microwaving asparagus, I hear through the radioactive hum the announcement, a writer has died. Who? I asked my host. Hunter S. Thompson. Holy shit. Hunter Thompson, who's ruined more young lives than Thomas Chatterton, Ozzy Osbourne, Arthur Rimbaud, Jim Morrison, Ernest Hemingway, and Kurt Cobain put together. When, in the spring of 1980, Rolling Stone did a piece on you plugging the god-awful movie Where the Buffalo Roam, and you said your current favorite drink was Scotch and NyQuil, yeah, I ran to Super Sadie's for a bottle of Black Velvet and some cold medication. And I don't even like Scotch. So imagine what it tastes like with the bilious green sludge that is NyQuil. I was drunk, sleepy, and nauseous. But my sinuses were never so clear. Hunter Thompson, who in spite of my background as a first-year dropout of the S.I. Newhouse School of Communications of Syracuse University, taught me that no journalist worth his salt ever researched a story unless totally fried on acid. A technique that miraculously worked when I got my first printed piece ever in the LA Weekly, and also explains why it was 9 years before I was published again. Hunter Thompson, who regardless of my first perforated ulcer, I still admired unreservedly as the ultimate unrepentant reprobate for his refusal, even after his assault drug bust, to cop a plea and go on out, Oprah, as the first leg of the inspiring story of my recovery from drugs and alcohol tour. Like all those other pathetic, whiny Hollywood losers who don't have the guts to pay the piper when the axe comes down, and thus are all at the Oscars tonight. Oh, Hunter, you never told us what you really felt. Were you sad living in the O'Farrell Theater, the porn palace run by the infamous Mitchell brothers in San Francisco, for 2 bloody years, quote, researching a book, unquote, when you couldn't even get it up? Were you angry when the cheap-ass binding of The Curse of Lono came undone, making an intact copy of that piece of tripe the most valuable first edition in the canon of your work? Was it really hip and back pain that drove you over the edge? You, the man who had his teeth knocked down his throat by the Hell's Angels. Oh, Hunter, will you ever send that story racketing down the Mojo wire to Jan Wenner's office at the Rolling Stone? But I forgot. There is no Mojo. We have internet now. And Jan is at the Academy Awards show with his hand wedged up Scarlett Johansson's butt crack while laughing uproariously at the antics of a network-sanitized Chris Rock. And Gonzo is dead. Oh, Hunter, who can forget your immortal motto to live by? When the going gets weird, the weird blow their fucking brains out. No, wait, that's not right. Oh, Hunter.